Okay, I want to look at lists and tuples, and to do that we're going to go back a few versions of our store checkout program prior to creating functions, and we're just going to go to the plain store checkout program. You can look at that one in a previous video. We're just going to save that as, we'll call it store checkout list, and then we can edit this. And so the first thing we're going to look at is this setup here at the top, because we do have a list of items. So can we use Python's list data type to change that up and possibly make it a little bit better? So what a list is it's used to store multiple values in a single name called a list. It's almost like being able to store multiple values in the same variable. So let's start out with something called prices, and we'll set that equal to each of the prices in our list. So now we have this list of prices all associated with this one name, prices. So later on we're going to need a way to select which price we want, and the way we do that is called an index. And everything is labeled or indexed from 0. So 0 would be this 1715 value, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if I wanted to print the first one, I could just say prices, and then put in, of course, if I wanted the first price, it could be prices with an index of 0, and that's going to turn out to be this right here, the 1715. Okay, so the other place we might be able to use a list is this menu. Since we have different menu items, let's go ahead and add a list of menu items. And we'll set that equal to each of the choices we have on the list here. And so I'll just put those right in there. And now we kind of have these two lists that are parallel. So we have essentially the name is lined up at the same index of the price of that cheese. So for each one, we've lined them up in order so that later on we can take advantage of that. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this whole list here, because we're going to use this later on instead of each individual variable. So we'll just get rid of that. And we're going to keep the total. We need that. We need the tax rate. Okay. And we're going to actually replace this menu. And so what I'm going to do, go ahead and keep exit on the menu too. So I'm going to go ahead and add for element 0. I'm going to call that exit menu. And now I've thrown off my prices here, so I'm just going to put in a dummy price of 0 for the first price, so my menu item lines up with that. I'm going to keep the title, but then the rest of this I'm going to replace. And what I'll do is just create a loop. So I'll do for I in range of 7. Okay, and why 7? Because we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items, including the exit menu part. So we'll go 0 through 6 for those 7. And so for each one of those, we want to print out each item. So we can do a print I. So we'll print out the number, and then we'll put out the menu choice. So menu items, and then we'll pick I also as the index. Okay, so let's see how that runs. We do have some changes we made up here are going to create syntax errors here, but I think we'll be okay if we just want to see this menu print. So let's run that. And we get our menu. It doesn't quite look like before, so let's go ahead and exit this. And we'll go up here and let's change this up just a little bit so we can go in here and put in a quote with an open parenthesis and another comma to separate these items out. That will make it look a little bit more like it was before. So it'll put each line will have that parenthesis to separate the menu item, but we have a space in there now. So let's just change this up a little bit more. We can try to concatenate these together, but I is not going to be a string. So let's convert this to a string so that we can concatenate this string version of I to the parenthesis. And let's see how that works. And that looks a little more like it did before, other than we're putting exit menu up at the top. So we've shortened this a little bit, setting up a loop and just reading out of the lists. And really at this point, I'm going to say a list is a little bit of overkill because we're not really going to change the list during the program. So we're going to change these to something called a tuple. And the only difference between the list and the tuple is we cannot change values in the tuple, which is okay because we're not planning to change these, right? At least if we do change these, we're going to change them before runtime and change the values like we want. So they're more or less constant, and they will be constant during the run of the program. So we'll change these to tuples. Let's run this again. Pretty much the same thing, but we're not going to be able to add to it, which we weren't planning to do anyway. So that's fine. Okay, so the next thing, we'll look at this choice. We'll keep choice the same. Let's scroll down a little bit. We can get rid of a lot of this matching here because we're not going to be selecting on the case anymore since we've lined up the prices. We can actually come in and instead of this variable here, well, we could set the price equal to, and we could select a price out of that tuple. So we could say prices sub and then whatever their choice is, right? So if they select one off of the menu, then this is the price we're going to get, right, according to the index, which is corresponding to our menu. So that's exactly what we want. So we can set that to price and add that into the total, or we can actually get rid of an extra variable. Just wanted to do that logically, but we can actually just put that right down here and add that in. Okay, might make more sense if you do it in 2 steps so you can see what's going on, but this will do exactly the same thing. We're going to select according to index whatever the price is, and we're going to add that into the total, which we initialized to 0 at the beginning. So total is our accumulator there. And then we have another menu down at the bottom. So we'll keep that first line, and then we can actually just take that same loop we set up before. We'll copy that and come in down here to the rest of our menu and paste that in to replace it. We got to get our indentation right here, so we'll tab that over. And we'll keep our choice for the end of the menu. The sales tax and the rest of our program should be pretty much the same. We just changed kind of our menu selection using those tuples. And so let's go ahead and get out of this. Let's run it again and put in a few items. Oh, let's put in 1, 2, and then we'll exit. And so we get our totals just like we did before. Just a little bit different menu and a little bit more compact as far as the code goes. So we scroll up here and see the main part of our program pretty much fits on one screen now, okay, which is sort of what we were trying to do when we created functions before. So essentially we've kind of shortened our code by replacing all of those variable names with 2 tuples to list our menu items and to have the corresponding prices. So our choice will select and add in the correct price based on the corresponding index from the menu. So right there, we're going to add that in based on what the choice is. Notice we keep 0 by using this priming read. Before we get to the loop, we make sure if we put in 0, we don't actually get to add that into the total. And then also the last thing in this loop is selecting the choice. So as soon as we hit 0, just in case it wasn't 0, something like -999, we don't want to add that into the price. It will never be added into the total at that point because of the positioning of that. So I think we haven't really used a list. We started out with list and figured out we only needed tuples. So next time we might add in another list to this program to take a look at how lists work.